Now, before I opine on what Nick Saban said yesterday during a press conference, I want you guys to hear it too so we can be on the same page. Let's go ahead and play the clip.
Tony Mitchell has been suspended from the team and all team activities until we gather more information about the situation and what his legal circumstance is. And, guys, everybody's got an opportunity to make choices and decisions. There's no such thing in being at the wrong place at the wrong time. You got to be responsible for who you're with, who you're around, and what you do, who you associate yourself with, and the situations that you put yourself in. So it is what it is, but there is, cause and effect when you make, choices and decisions that put you in bad situations.
Now, do I think that Nick Saban meant to take a personal shot at his colleague Nate Oats yesterday when saying this, when saying there's no such thing as wrong place or the wrong time while talking about Tony Mitchell? No, I don't. But he is right when it comes to these type of situations. Now, this made headlines and memes everywhere since we know Bama's head basketball coach, Nate Oats, said that Brandon Miller was in the wrong place at the wrong time when speaking of the Jamea Harris case in Tuscaloosa. Now, Nick Saban is one of the most calculated people out there, and he typically doesn't say things that he doesn't mean or he doesn't know what pushback is coming. Now, some will say this was personal, but in my opinion, I believe Saban is going to say what he wants when he wants, because while Bama is making a run in hoops, Nick knows who the big dog really is. I don't think he could care less if it offends even those on the same payroll as him, because Nick Saban is singularly focused on one thing: creating a culture that wins. Everything he just said was correct, and that is how a press conference should be handled during turbulent times. You decide who you hang out with, when you hang out with them, and what you are doing. It's a life lesson that all of us have to learn, and for some of us, we learn too late. There's also been new info released about the Brandon Miller case, and while I believe he still should have sat 1 or 2 games during the inquiry, it seems that tragic night went a little bit differently than the rampant speculation indicated. But again, that isn't the point that Nick Saban was making. As a leader, your job isn't to make excuses for those you lead, regardless of their importance to the cause. Your job is to hold them accountable while pushing them further than they can push themselves. Saban didn't mean to call out Nate Oats, but I believe he did give him a blueprint on the right way to handle the PR of a bad situation, because after all, isn't that what Saban does best? I'm going to go and bring in my co-host, David Cohn, former Michigan quarterback, and I'm working on a little ninja focus today. FD to my right. I will not be referring to him by his government name for the rest of the week.
A couple days early.
Yeah, a couple days early. We're not on the clock. We're not on the counter.
Won't help.
No, it'll help. It'll help. Practice makes perfect. Hey, like I say, how do you get to the Grand Ole Opry? Practice.
That's true.
But David, looking at this situation, I get why people immediately assume that he was not taking a shot at Nate Oats, but putting his spin on the way he felt like the situation should be handled. I don't think Nick Saban is worried at all what Nate Oats is saying, what Nate Oats has said, or if Alabama's going to beat San Diego State. I don't think he could care less. Maybe the little bit he cares is he knows the better the basketball team does, the more it brings brand awareness to those football recruits out there. The more fun it is to take those football recruits to the basketball game when your team's good, game day's there and going nuts. But Nick Saban is a one-track minded person, and that one track is to win. Build a culture that wins, a blueprint that wins, and everything he just said, in my opinion, was correct. And I think, even though it wasn't a direct shot or correlation to what Nate Oats said, I think Nate Oats can learn from this.
Oh, yeah. I think for Nick Saban to use that exact phrase, there's no such thing as the wrong place at the wrong time, I interpret that as he is clearly sending a message. Now, I agree with you that I don't think it's personal. I don't think it's malicious. And I don't necessarily think he is speaking about the Brandon Miller situation.
Yeah.
I think he's sending a message about what Coach Nate Oats said about the Brandon Miller situation, right? That's why so much of this drama was really created, was because because it seemed like at the time that Nate Oats was being a little bit flippant about the information, even though he wasn't aware of the information that had just come out in testimony. It was a crazy day that day, right? And it was just a couple of weeks ago. I think Nick Saban used this situation here to send a very strong message, almost like a big brother, little brother situation is how I thought of it. No, it's not personal, but yeah, this is how I am a steward of Alabama athletics, right? And I am going to be the leader here. This is how we're going to run our family. This is how we're going to operate. And no, there is no such thing as the wrong place at the wrong time. What I find interesting is what will happen now with Tony Mitchell moving forward. You know, like, will he be reinstated to the team? Was this just sort of the first incident that popped up for Coach Saban to be able to send this message? Because Alabama athletics has been under scrutiny for the last couple of weeks in a very negative way, while they have the #1 overall seed in the basketball tournament and could possibly win the whole thing. That has been overshadowed by this just cloud of drama and negativity. And I think Coach Saban wanted to clear that up a bit.
Yeah, and I battle back and forth because I know that Saban doesn't want distractions. And I have always been in the camp, Blaine, of Nick Saban knows what he is going to say, knows why he is going to say it, and is prepared for whatever backlash or whatever's coming back from it. But I don't think he seeks out distractions. I don't think he seeks out trying to create a PR storm that has now happened. I think he just said what he thinks, which is the truth, regardless of what you think about the Brandon Miller situation. And we have a bad problem in sports. It's like politics. You can make yourself believe something if it's your team, right? So in politics all the time, if you're on the right, anything that the right does, you will justify it to death. If you're on the left, it's the exact same thing. We do that for our teams in sports too. Like that's a problem. It's hard to take yourself away from, what connects you to the team and say something bad about something you are very passionate about, whether that be sports or politics.
Yeah.
But Blaine, I know the man dodges distractions at all costs because distractions interrupt the routine. That is the process. That is the blueprint. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think Nick Saban obviously doesn't want distraction, but I think Nick Saban is going to set a standard no matter what it is or what sport you coach. And I think Nick Saban, as strategic and planned out, Nick Saban said, this was meant for Nate Oats to hear. I really do. Because at the end of the day, Nick Saban has to coach so many guys on a football team, and there's a standard, and there's one message that gets sent throughout this entire football team. Let's not act like all these guys come from the best background either when you join a football team. It's a lot harder to wrangle in guys, the amount of guys you have on a football team, especially with the athletes they have, to set a standard that the team is more important than one person. And at the end of the day, that is what Nick Saban is about. The Brandon Miller situation, I think every fan base looks at it differently. I think if it was a Tennessee kid who did it, who's a lottery pick, I think Clay Travis would be out here defending him. If it was an Auburn kid who's a lottery pick, hell, I'd probably be out here trying to find ways to defend him too. But at the end of the day, Nick Saban's about the team and about the standard and the identity of a program. And he doesn't want stuff like this bleeding into anywhere close to this football team at all. So I think Nick Saban, I think it was a personal shot. No, I don't. I don't think Nick Saban's out here taking personal shots, but it's a subtle message to Nate Oats that a team's standard's a lot more important than a team just going having a great year, one-off year.
Yeah, but again, I feel like this is something, if that was your goal, I think that's something you could do behind closed doors. I always ask myself this question when you get in these PR situations. What do you have to gain by it? What is the good that comes out of it? I look at this, and using that if he would have used any other phrase, I don't think this would nearly be the story it was.
I agree with you 100%.
What do you have to gain by doing this? Nothing. So now you're going to distract the Alabama basketball team who's in the Sweet 16 with this? And it's going to bleed over to your team? I have a hard time thinking that he went up to that podium saying, you know what? Nate Oats, I'm talking to you, Nate Oats. That's just, I have a hard time thinking Nick Saban, the ultimate architect, the guy that understands the full scope, not just schematically, but how to handle the press, how to handle the boosters, how to handle the fan base. maybe I'm giving him too much credit. Maybe
the
I am.
best word there, full scope, because with that one phrase, with him being able to stand at the podium, suspend this kid by saying the exact phrase that Nate Oats used in a different situation, he was able to send a message on multiple fronts at the same time. Nate Oats could hear that and say, hey, this is how we operate at Tuscaloosa if you want to be like a championship head coach here. The outside world can hear that and say, hey, Alabama's come under all this scrutiny in the last few weeks, and who's the first person you think about when you think of Alabama athletics? It's Nick Saban. I want to show that I am above this, and this is not how we operate, even though this happened with a different sport here at the university. And he's also sending a message to his team. He's sending a message to your point, Blaine, there's 120 guys on a football team, right? There's not 20 guys like on a basketball team. There's 120 of you. No one is above following the rules. Now, I get it, spring practice. You're not headed, it's not a week away from a national championship or something. It's a little bit different situation. But being able to use that, I think he was able to, even if he is thinking in his mind, you know what, Nate Oats is going to hear this or not hear this or whatever, the outside world, I'm going to at least be able to defend Alabama athletics and set myself apart here as the leader of this program for the outside world.
Yeah, and anybody who said that Nick Saban's just upset because Alabama basketball is getting all the pub, Look, Nick Saban's got more rings than the Olympics.
People said that?
Oh, yeah. I saw it all over social media. Because, everybody's attacking him. Man's got more rings than an Olympic logo. You think he cares about being in the Sweet 16? Come on, dude. My man walks a goat path every morning eating Little Debbie's and ham salads.
Yeah, he might be bored of winning.
Yeah, that's true. What did Trump say? You're going to be so tired of winning.
So that's a good question there, because at my high school, we had a really good football coach and a good basketball coach. They both wanted the best athletes to play on their teams, and sometimes it got a little bit confrontational, I guess. Not publicly or anything, but in terms of like some guys weren't allowed to play basketball and some weren't allowed to play football or something. So do you think, I agree with you that that's laughable, that statement. But if given his choice, do you think Nick Saban wants the Alabama basketball team to go win the championship this year?
Yes.
I think so.
I think it helps. Again, a rising tide lifts all ships.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I think so too.
I mean, I don't think all of a sudden Alabama fans will be like, football,
but like, if you say that to someone like, let's say, John Calipari, like, hey, would you want the Kentucky football team
Obviously
to go
not.
win the national championship?
Well, hell,
I meant the other way.
Yeah. Well, Cal's got one ring, and he should thank the unibrow for that. But tell us in the comments, what do you think in the Booster Club chat? If you're not live in the comments, tell us, do you think that Nick Saban did that intentionally? Because I think there's different logical ways to look at it, and I'm fascinated to kind of find out, which is which. Hey, YouTube, when you get a chance, do us a favor. Turn that notification bell on, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us grow, and we know you're enjoying the content, and we really enjoy putting it out.